तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य तन्मयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 26th chapter, verse number 27. These are the teachings of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti on the philosophy of Sankhya, and he has explained how from Prakriti appeared Mahatattva, which makes the Chitta, which is also called Vasudeva, and is in the Sattva Guna. And from Mahatattva comes Ahankara, which is called here as Ananta Sankarsana, having 1000 heads. And then he said that Ahankara is of 3 types, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, and from this comes Karya, Karana, Kartritva. The deities, the senses and the material elements. So he further explains these 3 manifestations from Ahankara. Vaikarikad vikurvanad manastattvam ajayata yat sankalpa vikalpabhyam vartate kama sambhavaha. From Ahankara in Sattva Guna appeared the mind, Manas. And mind is the source of desires. The desires take birth in mind. and sankalpa vikalpabhyam vartate. It exists by sankalpa and vikalpa, that I want to have this particular object, this will, or I do not want it. So this type of sankalpa and vikalpa, it happens in the mind. This is the definition of mind given here. And it is commented by Sri Chakravarti. यतो मनसः संकल्पः सामान्यतो विषय जिघृक्षा सामान्य विषयस्यैव विविध संकल्पेन विषयस्थो जिघृक्षा विकल्पस्य ताभ्यां कामस्य मनोर्थस्य संभवो भवति. So he says that in the mind we get sankalpa, which is he defines as desire to get some object in general, and vikalpa means when you make some specific will to accept a particular object, and by these two there is desire in the mind. So this is how sankalpa and vikalpa are defined here. So mind is basically the seat of desire, and desire means basically two types of desires. Either you want to get something or you want to reject something. There are only two types. Whether you want to go to some place or you want to leave that place. You want to eat some food or you want to avoid some food. You want to hear some music or you don't want to hear some music. You want to meet some person or you want to avoid some person. So there is always desire to accept and reject. These are the only two types of desires, basically. And then if you go into the specific category, then there is so much variety in that. So therefore it says sankalpa vikalpabhyam yato kam sambhava. From this sankalpa and vikalpa there is birth. And mind is supposed to be in sattva, because you know things also by mind. Although we will think that mind should be in rajas, because it's always changing, so many desires are coming, but because mind is an instrument of knowledge, whatever you know only because of the mind. The external senses, they cannot give knowledge without the help of mind. And knowledge is the quality of sattva. So therefore it is said here that Vaikarikadi Ukurvana Manas Tattva Najayata. That when Ahankara and Vaikarika, which is another name for Sattva, Kara means modification and Vikara means no modification. And Sattva is called Vaikarika because in Sattva there are no modification. And Rajas is that which brings change. Rajas is like the fire element. So fire is that which transforms things. Whenever you see some things transforming, that happens by fire. You cook food, all the fruits are ripening on the tree, then the changes they happen because of Agni Tattva or Rajas, Rajagun. So fire is also representative of Rajagun in the five elements. Therefore fire is related with Pitta in Ayurveda. Because Pitta also transforms. When you have to digest food in the stomach, you need fire. If fire is not there, then you cannot digest food. And because of that, disease comes. So Sattva therefore is for knowledge and Rajas is for modification. And it is for this reason that Sattva is also called Vakarika. So Vakarika Vikurvana Manas Tattva mein aata hai. When the change in the Sattva part of Ahankara occurred, the mind was born. So this transformation also happens because of disturbance caused by the time. So time is everywhere. And as it was said earlier, Bhagavad Virya Sambhavat, that the transformation occurred by the power of Bhagavan, and that is this time. So everywhere we have to understand this, although it may not be stated. Otherwise, Sattva does not change. Things which are in Sattva, they can stay like that for a long time. So this Sankalpa and Vikalpa, this is the basic characteristic of mind. And then in the next he explains the presiding, worshipable deity of mind. Yad vidu aniruddhakhyam rishikanamadhishwaram shardendi varashyamam Samradhyam yogi bhishanaihi. So mind is also called Aniruddha, and of course when it is called means that Aniruddha is the worshipable deity of the mind. And Rishikanam Adhishwaram is the king of the senses. Therefore another name is Rishikesh, who controls the senses. The senses work under the mind. Without mind, senses do not function. Cannot sense anything without the help of the mind. And the color of Aniruddha is Shardendi Varasam, like a blue lotus flower. And he is worshipped by the yogis. Samradhyam yogi visana, slowly. Because yogis, they want to control the mind. So therefore they meditate on Aniruddha. Because Aniruddha is the worshipable person in the mind, worshipable deity. There is no commentary on this. So mind's deity is called Aniruddha. And Niruddha means to control. From this remember Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. Yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha, Niruddha means to control. So Aniruddha means uncontrollable. So very difficult to control mind. Because the boss of mind is Aniruddha, is uncontrollable. So just as the worshipable Lord of Ahankara is Ananta, who has 1000 heads, Sahasra Shirsha, it's also called Sankarshan. So they are related with that particular element, signifying the quality of that element. So here the word Aniruddha also signifies the characteristic of the mind, that it is very formidable, not controllable. Yad yasmat rishikanam indriyanam adhishwaram aniruddhakyam viduriti sambandham indriya niyamakatam tasya lakshanam. So his characteristic is that he is the controller of the senses. Balishtatvam prabhutvam cha pratikarnartham adhidevik lakshanam tatra pratikarartham bhagavad upasana eva kartavya. So how to control the mind? Only by worshipping the Lord. So therefore it is specifically given Sardhendi Varam Samradhyam Yogi Bhusana. That yogis they worship Aniruddha specifically. So Sardhendu means he is free from all defects, and the color is blackish, which also signifies the Sringar Ras. Tena snehena sarvakaleshu sarvdosa bhavena bhagavat sevayam manodosa nivartante iti. So this means that if we worship the Lord with love, then mind will become free from all defects and it will become controlled. Otherwise, not possible. Most difficult to control the mind. Then from the Tejas or the Rajasic Ahankara comes Buddhi. Tejasat tu vikurvanad buddhi tattvam abhut sati dravya spuran vijnanam indriyanam anugraha. So this very interesting verse, actually this and the next verse are very interesting. Says that from Ahankara in Tajasa or Rajas, when it went on change or modification, then Buddhi Tattva evolved from that. The intellect came. So first mind, then intellect. When you have desire, then you also get intelligence how to fulfill that desire. If you have seen children, they see something, then they want it, then although they are not trained, they try to figure out how can I get it. They may not be able to reach it, then they will pull a chair, go onto the chair, then try to get it. So the intelligence is coming after desire. So Tajasat tu vikurvanat buddhi tattvam abhut sati. And what are the characteristic of buddhi? Dravya spuran vijnanam. That it is through buddhi that we understand a particular object. If we don't have buddhi, then we do not understand. You can see things, you can have desire for it, but you may not know what it is. Children also see, they want to grab it, but they are not clear what it is. Animals also. So, what is an object? This is known through buddhi. So this is the characteristic of intelligence or intellect, to understand things separately. There is a very common trend, you can say, or gentlemanly behavior or gentlewomanly behavior. You hear this word, I have heard many times, and they say that, what is the word they use? Don't judge. Right? You hear this? People will say, don't judge. So if you don't judge, then you are not intelligent. Because animals don't judge, children don't judge, insane people don't judge. Somebody goes mad, why we call somebody as mad or crazy? Because he cannot judge. He may sit somewhere where it is not to sit, he may eat something which is not to be eaten, he may drink something which is not to be drunk, because he cannot judge things, cannot discriminate. So these days they say that if you don't judge, then you are like advanced. So judging is the quality of buddhi, intelligence. More you can categorize things, that means you are intelligent. So animals, they cannot make much distinction. You give food to them, they just eat it. If you want to eat, then you want to see this is pasta, this is sweet, this is salty. Right? You want to eat this before, this later. Put something to the cow, everything mixed together, eat. Because there is no buddhi. So people don't use their intelligence, we say, oh, he is like an animal. So what is the difference between animal and human being? That animals cannot judge. They have little judgment. They smell things and they can figure out whether I can eat it or not. So dravya spuran vijnana. To judge you have to know object properly. There are people who are called wine testers. So they can taste wine and tell whether this wine is good, bad, how old it is. Means they have really very fine intellect to judge it. For a common person, you give, looks same. But there is another person who comes and says, no, this is very special and it is like this. And they can even tell from which part of France it is coming. Right? So this needs lot of intelligence to discriminate, to figure this out. Dravya spuran vijnanam. Dravya means object and spuran means like inspiration, feeling, to know, and vijnana means consciousness, awareness. So to have this fine distinction, this is not the job of ordinary person. That's why they are paid for that. Because they are able to make judgment. So now they say don't judge. So what do you have to say about that? So you can dull your intelligence, of course, if you don't want to judge. Because intelligence will judge. Wherever you go, you will start comparing things. So that's how it works. And Indriyanam Anugraha. Two things are stated here about intelligence. That Dravya Spuran Vijnanam, that you come to know about the objects through intellect. And Buddhi is the one which blesses the senses. Some people have very sharp senses, sense of smell. You can smell things or see. Artistic people, they can see so many different colors. We may not discriminate. For us, it's all green, but they will say this is light green, this is dark green, this is parrot green, this is whatever, jiva green. So in green also there is so much variety. So our senses, if they are blessed by buddhi, then they can function, otherwise they don't function properly. So these are the two characteristics of buddhi. Dravya Spuran Vijnana, Indriyanam Anugraha. Very important to understand this. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Dravya Spuran Rupam Vijnanamiti. Vijnan means experience, awareness. So, to have this experience of the object, to know, this is by buddhi. Chitta Vyavrityartham. So, this is to separate buddhi from chitta. Chitta also gives spuran, and sometimes chitta is also called the intelligence. Mahatattva is also translated as cosmic intelligence. But this chitta and buddhi, they are two different things here in Bhagavatam Sankhya. In other philosophies, this buddhi and chitta, they are considered as one. Not here. So chitta also gives vijnan, but that vijnan is only in the form of chetana, consciousness. Chetana rupam vijnanam tu chitta dharma vijnanam. I already explained that the consciousness which is in chitta is without any object. It is just awareness. And the consciousness of buddhi is very specific. It is related to an object. So this is the difference. There is vijnan in chitta also, because that is the quality of chitta. Chetana rupa dharma vijnana. That is just consciousness. And here it is dravya spuran vijnana. Consciousness of, to be conscious of an object. That happens by buddhi. So this is different. Indriyanam anugraha iti buddhya vina panchendriyani na pravartitum saknuvanti. So senses cannot work without intellect. If the buddhi goes to sleep, which is also one of its functions, which will be described later on, then the senses don't work. Even the mind cannot think properly when you are sleeping, because the intelligence goes into tamas, then you don't function, the senses don't function. So they need special help. That's why it is called Indriyanam Anugraha. But without buddhi they cannot function. यद्यपि चित्त अहंकार मनसी अपि इंद्रिय अनुग्रहकाणि तदपि बुद्धिया तद अनुग्रह विशेषो ज्ञेय. So he says that although chitta, ahankara and mind, they also help the senses to function. Senses cannot function without the help of chitta, because chetana is coming from chitta, consciousness. And if the sense is not going to get consciousness, how it will function? When you are seeing, eating, walking, talking, then you have to have ahankara that I am doing this. So ahankara is also necessary. Then the mind, the thought, any action is preceded by the thought. So all these three are also necessary. Therefore he says that they are also blessing the senses to function, but major role is of buddhi. Without buddhi, it will not happen. So because buddhi is the one which gives you dravya spurana, you have to know first the object. So therefore here it is said that Indriyanam Anugraha. तथा ही शब्दं शृणोमि इत्यत्र प्रथमं चित्तेन चेतनमात्रं निधीयते बुद्ध्या शब्दोऽयमिति स्फूर्तिः मनसा शब्दे जिगृक्षा अहंकारेण तत्र स्वाभिमानार्पणम् इति भेदः. So he is explaining with an example that suppose you say that I hear sound, Shabdam Srinami. You hear a sound and you say I hear the sound. So what is the process? So he says that first step is that there is just Chetana, consciousness, before even eye comes into picture, before hearing happens. There has to be consciousness. That is the basis. Just as we are reading that time is the basis of all activities. And the activities are happening in the substratum of time. Without time, nothing will happen. All activities happen in time and space. So this is a general cause. General cause means a cause which is needed for every action. And then there are specific causes which are needed for that specific result. So time, space, direction, these are common things required for every action. So similarly you need consciousness. If consciousness is not there, then there is no action. You cannot perceive anything without consciousness. So first you need just the base consciousness, which is the quality of chitta. Then when the sound comes into ear, first there is only consciousness. Then, which means that there is something. Then the intellect, it tells you that it is sound. Shabdoyam. This is sound. Then mind gets the desire that I want to hear this sound. What is this music? Or you want to avoid it. So then comes the sankalpa. Sankalpa in the mind. You want it, you don't want it. And before even, although I said I wanted it, just the mind desires to have it. Because mind likes or mind dislikes. There are two things which happen in mind. Liking, disliking. Whenever there is any sensation coming to the mind, there is always liking and disliking. Either you like it or you don't like it. So if you like it, then you want it. If you don't like it, you reject it. But before you do that, then comes ahankara, the I want it. So first there is a desire to have it, then ahankara says that I want it. So this is how chitta, buddhi, man and ahankara, they are coming into their proper function. So this is the distinction in the four types of these vrittis which I said earlier, that the distinction is vrittita lakshanam prathak. But I am going to explain you their definitions. And Chaturdha Lakshite Bhedo Vrittya Lakshana Rupaya. And there are four distinctions or divisions because of their four vrittis. There is also nice commentary by Vallabhacharya. Says Buddher Utpattim Maha Tejasatvatiti. The birth of Buddhi is explained. Tu Shabdaha Satvika Utpatti Paksham Vyavartati. The word tu, Tejasattu Vikarvana, is making it distinct from the modification in sattva. Vikurvanat rajasat buddhi tattvam bhit. So from the rajas came buddhi. Saditi sambodhanam tejasatvepi sadbuddhi reva utpadyate iti nirupanaartham. सती सती विषय व सर्वविषय का एवं बुद्धि उत्पन्नति अतएव अस्य आदिदैविक रूप में निरूप्यते आध्यात्मिकं लक्ष्यति द्रव्य स्फुरन विज्ञान. So it is interesting that he did not explain the worshipable deity of the Buddhi. Like he explained Vasudeva, Sankarsana and Aniruddha, but he didn't say about Pradyumna. Yeah. So यथा इंद्रिय प्रेरकत्वं मनसा तथा इंद्रियानुग्राहकत्वं बुद्धि. So he says that just as mind is the one which inspires the senses, in the same way buddhi is that which gives power to the senses. buddhya eva anugrihitani indriyani pashyanti kurvanti cha. It is only because of the buddhi or intellect that senses can see and function. Ateva buddhi tartamyena indriya gyan kriyos tartamya. So he says, therefore, according to the buddhi or intellect of a person, there is corresponding sense perception and action on a person. So a person perform work. You hire people for the same job. So one person does it very nicely and the other one is not able to do it so nicely. Why is that? They both have senses. They both are using their senses to do the job. One does it very nicely and the other one is not doing it so nicely. What makes the distinction? It is because of the buddhi. One has more buddhi than the other. One's buddhi is clean. So that person, by using the buddhi, can function better with the senses. And another one is not having such buddhi, therefore he cannot function properly. Or if you want to understand things, because we have two types of senses, we are perceiving things and we are doing work. So we have working senses and cognitive senses. So both work in proportion to one's intellect. Some people can manage things, some other people make a mess. Some people can see things and understand, and others see and they are confused. So this is because of the level of the buddhi. So therefore Krishna says that Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam kriyanti. I give buddhi yoga by which the devotee can come to me. Because it is through the buddhi yoga that you give anugraha or blessing to the senses by which you can know things or function or do something. Etat karyanusari lakshanam. So it says this is the definition according to the function. Dravya spuran vijnanam iti swarup lakshana. And buddhi gives spuran or knowledge about the object. This is the inner definition of buddhi. Dravyasya ghatadeh spurne sati shraddena sanskarena alokena va yadvasishta jnanam yasmat kevalam chakshusha jnane tartamyam na syat svata spurnam yoga dharmadi bhirapi bhavati ato dravya spurna eva jnanam buddha lakshana. So dravya here means objects like pot, book, table and so on. So once there is a sphuran or inspiration inside, then you give a specific understanding of that knowledge by using word. You can speak about it, or samskara which are created, or alokena. So then this is special plan, special understanding. So yasmat kevalam chakshusha jnane tartamyam na syat. So the gradation of knowledge is not only by seeing through the eyes alone, but other things are involved. And swatah spurnam yogas dharmadi virapi bhavati ato dravya spurnam eva jnanam buddha lakshana.